Thank you for joining. I have a really great demonstration to show you today. Using the RackWare Migration Manager, or RMM, I will migrate a fully functional and running SAP HANA suite from Amazon AWS to Google Cloud without disruption of those source production hosts during this migration process and during our Delta synchronization process. Really straightforward workflow. I'm going to show you those SAP instances running in AWS. We're going to take a look and log into the application suite itself. We're going to look at our RackWare RMM that's running in our Google Cloud target environment. We're going to upload a WAV file that contains a list of the servers that make up our SAP HANA suite into the RackWare server. We're going to attach our Google Cloud user account information to that WAV, and then we'll review some target host options, such as being able to change the host name or DNS on the target itself during the migration process. We'll start our auto provision of that production workload into Google Cloud, and then we'll verify our full SAP HANA suite that has been migrated over into Google Cloud. After that, we'll add some data to our source environment, and then we'll perform what we call a Delta sync into our Google Cloud instances, and then we'll validate that new data on those GCP instances. Quick overview of the RackWare RMM migration process. We have our RackWare RMM server deployed into our target environment, that's Google Cloud. We'll establish a layer 3 network connection from that RMM to our source servers themselves. This I'm doing with public IPs to keep it very simple. After the layer 3 connection is established, RackWare will go ahead and run a quick assessment analysis on those workloads in that WAV file. And then the auto provision process will tell it to go ahead and migrate all of those workloads into GCP over the network. And all this happens through an encrypted SSH tunnel the entire time. This process for the migration is non-disruptive to that client environment, so the entire time you can still run your application suite, enter new data into your database while the migration is happening. After the migration is completed, we can come over here and we can log in and we can take a look and validate all of our data on the target side, and then we can initiate what we call a Delta sync, where we synchronize the changes of data since the initial migration over into the target environment. And of course, you can perform as many Delta syncs as you like until you're ready to do the final quiesce and cutover. You'll see it's very efficient Delta sync and transfer across the connection. We only need to synchronize the bits of change within the files themselves. The provisioning is highly automated. Once we tell it where to put the data, it will perform all of the provisioning functions automatically for you. And then we have a lot of features to support the really complex enterprise environments. I'm just going to show you a couple of those, but there's a lot more. If you want to contact anybody here at RackWare, just reach out to info@rackwareinc.com and we'll have somebody get right back to you. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll get started. So let's take a look at our hosts running at AWS. And here we can see I've got 4 instances running that make up this SAP HANA suite. We've got our business objects, we've got our HANA database. I have a Windows Remote desktop that I can use to access those private IPs within this environment, and then NetWeaver also. And in here we can take a look at these are our public IPs that we'll be accessing everything through for the migration and logging into our remote desktop. One thing of interest, here's our HANA database. So you can take a look at its private IP 10.0.11.127, and I'll show you that in just a second. So let's bring up our remote desktop. And here we are. So we'll do a quick refresh. We're accessing us through a DNS name, but here you can take a quick look. I've got this in the etc host file 10.0.11.127. So here is our functional SAP HANA suite. We can take a look here, something of interest. I mean, you can go through all of this, but let's look at journal entries real quick. So here's some journal entries because we'll be adding one there. We'll go ahead and get rid of this fiscal year and just do a quick search. And we can see here is a list of some of our journal entries that we have within this data set here. We'll be adding some more after we perform the migration before we do the Delta sync to have something interesting to look at on that target side. So now let's go ahead and take a look at our Google Cloud resources. So here we're going to take a look. This is our RackWare RMM server that's running in US Central 1. And this is the server we're going to be accessing that'll perform the migrations. And then during that migration process, you'll see the target hosts automatically get created and placed into this instance list. Okay, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is what we call our wave file. And here, this is just a CSV file with the list of hosts that we're going to be performing an operation against. So just give them a name, the IP address we're going to connect into, what we want to call them in the target environment when they're created, and we've already set up our RackWare user on these and our system user for Windows. This is the exchange of the SSH key that allows us to create that encrypted SSH. So now let's take a look at our RackWare RMM server. And here, the landing page brings us to our replication tab. And there's nothing in here now, so what it's waiting for is for us to upload that list of servers that we created. So we'll do that right now. Go ahead and just drag and drop that file. See, we can see the wave add is completed. You can upload as many waves as you like to break apart the groups of servers for migration. And here we can see that we've got our 4 hosts that we had in our CSV file as part of this SAP HANA Suite wave. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at one of these hosts individually. So remember in that workflow, we talked about some of those advanced features here. So we're going to edit one of these items and we can see that we have some sync options and our system options. So right now we can go ahead and give it a different host name. So if we wanted the target to come up with a different host name, we'd simply just input that here. And then something else that's really handy here is DNS settings. So if you needed your target to point to a different DNS server, it's really easy to just put something in here, 8.7.6.5, to that effect, comma separated. So some of the 2 most commonly used settings, and then there's just a lot of other advanced options around that we'll take a look at later. Okay, so the next step we want to perform is go ahead and set up our cloud user account here. So we'll just go to cloud users. And here I already have my cloud user for Google Cloud set up, and it looks something around like this. You hit add, give it a name, and then you select your cloud provider, and then you would input your project ID and your service file here. So this is already pre-set up on there, but it's real simple to go ahead and add that Google account into RackWare. Only need to do that once. Go back to replication, go back to our wave, and we'll attach that profile to this wave. So here, select our GPC user, and then all this will make sense. We'll go ahead and grab that information. So our data center zone, we'll be deploying it into C, grab our network and our subnet. And then we'll apply these changes. So now if we go back and take a look, so if we take a look now, edit individual item, we'll have our Google Cloud options, and we can see that's populated from the zone, network, and subnet. I've also said to allocate public IPs to all these, and machine type. If we don't specify anything, that's fine because RackWare has already analyzed the source host, and it will create a machine of similar size to the source host. If we want to override that, simply just put in what you want as a specified instance type over in the Google Cloud. So we'll do that for our HANA database and give it some more CPU and some more memory here specifically. But we don't need to do that for the others. It's optional. Okay, that's it. That's all we have to do. We'll go ahead and change our parallel count to 4. So we'll go ahead and synchronize all 4 of these hosts at the same time. And all we have to do is hit the play button, and that will start our replication. Okay, here's that examine I was talking about earlier, where we're going to take a look and gather that information. We can go down to this drop down here, and we can get some more information, such as our logging here. Very easy to see our logging and if there's any troubleshooting that needs to be done. And we can see it's already gone to the auto provision phase. So let's take a look. Go back to our Google Cloud here and do a refresh. I don't think it refreshes so well, so we'll do this. There we go. Sorry, filters aren't working so well. Here are our 4 hosts being provisioned right now, and we can even see that one we specified as the HIMIM32. So let's take a look back at our RackWare, and this is in the auto provisioning phase. It then needs to get to the data synchronization, so we'll just wait until this continues. Okay, we can see that all of our hosts have completed their migration. With your status here, if we wanted to dig down into additional information, we could go through, take a look at history of what we've done and how long that took for the elapsed time. So let's go ahead and look at our hosts over in Google Cloud. And here we are. Here's our IP addresses, and for reference here, we'll just take a quick look at the database. And we have these on a different subnet. So you'll see now they've got a different static IP. Go ahead and log into our new Windows Remote Desktop. There we go. And new system that just booted up. So this is an exact clone of our original RDP host that we had running in AWS. And we'll go ahead and log into our dashboard here. And it still remembers to log in. And here we are. So this is our fully functional migrated SAP application suite with our HANA database up and running in Google Cloud. So we'll notice one thing here. We'll go take a look. We've updated the host file to reflect the new private IPs of our GCP hosts, 10.200.0.31, like we were looking at earlier in Google Cloud. Let's just do a quick look at our journal entries. I know it's down here somewhere. There we go. Here's our journal entries. And if you remember, we did the original search before. We'll take out that fiscal year and run that search. And here is our journal entries with the newest on top. Okay, so this is a completed migration. This is where you would go in and you would validate all of your target hosts. You would take a look and see if there were any config files that possibly needed to be updated because you decided to put these on a different private IP network. So you might want to change the etc host file or possibly point to a different DNS server. As I showed earlier in the config, we could have easily populated that information over to this target host. So now that we've validated our target environment, we'll go ahead and we'll go back to our RackWare server. And since I've made some changes to some individual files, we will tell RackWare not to sync those individual files. So let's just say I made changes to the etc host file and I want to exclude that file from the sync or possibly other config files. Here's where you can see the power of RackWare in its advanced configuration. So we have a simple exclude text file that lists our FS tab and our host file. So maybe I've done some additional mounts in there and I don't want those to be synced over and I don't want those to change. So we'll just open that and we've uploaded it and we'll hit modify. Okay. Now let's go ahead and add some data to our application here. All right, so here was our source host. Let's just do a quick refresh on these journal entries. Go back to the section where we can upload a new journal entry. So let's just take a quick look. We'll do a search by date. Right, there we go. Okay, see if I've got that right. Yep, okay, so we have no entries for 2422. Perfect, so we'll go back here and I have a journal entry that we can upload. All right, we'll browse. It's right here on my desktop. There we go. So I've got this new journal entry dated 2422, and we'll go ahead and post that. Excellent. So we've got both of our journal entries posted. Now go back and take a look at those. Search by that date again. Get rid of that fiscal year. Oops, sorry. And while we're at it, let's add some new data to our Windows RDP host. We'll just throw another bookmark up there. And then we'll go ahead and perform our Delta sync on the RMM itself. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and synchronize all the changes from any of these hosts over to our target host in Google Cloud. All I have to do is hit this play button again, and it will go ahead and perform the Delta sync and bring those changes across. Okay, and here we have our successful Delta sync for all of our hosts. Gives you the elapsed time for that synchronization. We can even take a quick look at our summary if we like. If we had additional waves and additional hosts here, especially if it showed you any failed or active. And let's take a look at our Windows machine. Connect in there. Okay, and go ahead and log into our Launchpad. And if you remember earlier, we had added a link to our source host, and that's it right there for the verified journal. Go ahead and get logged in and go to our journal entries. Take a quick look. And there we are. So there's our entry we did 2-4 for the $900. So that's it, simple as that for migration. If we wanted to do any additional Delta synchronizations, we would just go ahead and hit that play button again, and it would update any change data across all of the hosts within the wave. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to info@rackwareinc.com.